All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 50 of TCP Training Camp Pod. It's finally here. We're going to take a few minutes to talk about how far we've come, the journey at TCP. Noah, just reflecting on the amount of people we've interviewed, the amount that we've learned, the amount of people that we've met. We've made a lot of friends doing this. Let's start there. I don't think we ever anticipated that our network would grow this large. We've had on so many different personalities, so many different great traders, whether it's on FinTwit, off of FinTwit, just in general, people who are either extremely successful or who are, well on their way to becoming extremely successful. And it has just been so exciting. And as we, hit this number 50, episode 50 mark, I think it's important to thank not only our guests who have come on the show, because obviously it wouldn't have been possible without any of them, but I think it's also important to thank our listeners, because without you guys, this is something that honestly, it wasn't always smooth sailing. We've been doing this for about a year now, as crazy as that sounds, a year of doing TCP. It's nuts. But there have been, bumps along the way, times where we thought, is this something that we're serious about? Are we going to be able to continue to do the podcast? But you guys from day one have supported us and supported us in a really big way. And even leaving, just a 5-star review or leaving any review, giving us a retweet or a like on Twitter, that has kept Noah and I extremely motivated, and it's helped us now get to the point that we're at today. So want to thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the support. It's been a hell of a journey thus far.
Yeah, I completely echo those sentiments. It's honestly crazy to even think about 50 episodes, right? Like, it seems like so much time, but it really has been pretty quick, right? It's felt pretty quick. And I think, obviously I echo those sentiments, right? Like we can't thank the listeners enough. I think that, that's why we do this. And it's crazy because I didn't even know that people actually cared what we had to say. And
I know,
even just today, before we hopped on talking to Bracco about how, he's listened to basically every episode. I had a friend from back home I saw for the first time in literally 4 years. He was like, dude, I've listened to every single episode. It's nuts.
It's crazy, man.
That stuff, it's the best feeling in the world. So yeah, thank you. And we look forward to 50 more.
And it's our promise to you guys that we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep doing the pod bigger, better, badder, getting on all the guests that you guys want to hear from, all your favorite traders. So now, without further ado, we've got a guest who has been highly requested. He's been, a little quiet as far as podcast spaces. I don't hear too much from him, so I'm excited to get the chance to know Brocco, who has grown massively over the past few months. It's funny, I actually reached out to him when he had only around 3,000 followers on Twitter. And I don't know what it was, but I saw something in the kid and I was like, the content that he's posting is really, really solid. I'm like, who is this guy? And I just started going through his feed and I was like, oh, we got to get him on the podcast. And I sent this stuff to Noah. Noah was like, absolutely, let's get him on. And I thought it was going to be this whole, the TCP effect, we call it, right? Where we get somebody on that doesn't have a big following and then they blow up afterwards. But the guy's got 20,000 followers now. So, talent gets found, obviously, and he's a hard worker as well. But without further ado, Brocco, what's going on, brother?
How's it going, guys? I really appreciate you having me on. I do remember way back when you hit me up. I did want to come on, but I was in the process of moving, and I just had so much going on that I just wasn't ready. I kind of wanted to get settled and organized before I really was ready for this, but I also did just want to thank you guys. I don't think you realize how much you help a lot of people with these podcasts, these newer traders. I can imagine that sometimes it's a lot of work to manage trading and having to record these podcasts and, find guests to come on, but man, I've listened to all 50 episodes. I used to work construction about 3 months ago, and I drive 6 hours a day, and I just have these things on repeat, just hearing all the different styles and strategies, and it's incredible. It's such a great idea, but yeah, I just want to thank you guys. Super happy to be here. I am pretty quiet, haven't been on many spaces. This is actually my first podcast, but I'm excited to finally, reach out to my followers in a pretty solid way.
Thank you for the kind words, man. Definitely appreciate the support. But yeah, very excited to finally get the chance to speak with you. So let's get right into it. Let's get into your trading journey. How did you get started? What got you into the markets?
All right. So it started back in August of 2020. I actually, I'm from Virginia here. I went to public school freshman year of high school, and I played hockey at the time. I'd played hockey my whole life since I was a little kid. It kind of just ran in the family. And I decided to move away to Boston, away from my family when I was 15 years old, to play junior hockey. I lived with like a host family there. It was pretty cool. We'd go there from like August to March and play hockey and then come home in the summers. I did online schooling at the time. And I had a roommate there. His name was Jace. He's my best friend to this day. And I remember that year in 2020 in August, I didn't know anything about the market, nothing at all. And he had told me that over the summer he got into like options trading. And this is when 2020 was like, this massive run up from, the COVID rally and stuff. Unfortunately, I missed most of that, but you saw it everywhere on social media, people promoting Discords and saying, all you got to do is buy calls and you make, these crazy returns in a week. It was really that easy. And I had also had another friend on Snapchat that I knew, and he ran like a little Discord where he posted swing trades. And I told my roommate, like, hey, let me link you guys up. We'll get in this Discord and start like trading options. So I got started with options. I never even like started trading common stock, which I know is a little bit different. So I had a rough time to start. I'll put it that way. But I joined that Discord, and my roommate taught me all about options, how call options work, puts. I didn't have much money at the time. I was playing junior hockey. We were so broke, just scraping up any money to fund like a Robinhood account. The pattern day trading, only 3 day trades a week. And we were in the Discord, taking trades. And, the first while it went actually pretty good because, the first few are always free when you join the market. That's how they get you, right? And so, yeah, from there, I started learning and, blew up a few accounts over that time. And after that year of hockey, I came home and just, decided to just start working construction full time. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Everyone was pushing for me to go to college, but I didn't see how it made sense to go to college when I didn't really have a plan of what I wanted to do. If I wanted to be a doctor or something, yeah, that would have made sense. But, I really had no clue, and I couldn't imagine spending that much money without really having a plan, right? So I said, all right, I'm just going to work construction for a while and see if I can figure out, what I want to do. And, I blew up a fair amount of accounts because I know most people here have traded from work, and it's not easy. It's very hard. And I decided I was going to take a break for a while. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on charting. I decided to just chart out every night after work, write down trade ideas on a piece of paper, take this long here. And I'd come home the next night after work, sit at my desk and see how they played out. And I did that for months. I really did not trade much because, I worked very hard. I worked 60, 70 hours a week, sometimes 6 days a week. I had 2 jobs, and my money was like very valuable to me because I worked very hard for it, which is, I think that's where my, strong risk management stemmed from, because I really hated losing money because, it was so important to me to save that and not just blow it like it was gambling. So I was like, okay, for 3-4 months, I'm just going to chart, work on my technical analysis, and see how my ideas play out. And slowly I started seeing my ideas, start play out really well. My win rate was getting a little higher. I was like, all right, let me give this a shot again. So I started trading, it was pretty flat for a while, still losing money slowly. And then in December of last year, I found the Stock Talk Insiders Discord. Stock Talk Weekly had posted that he was going to start up a Discord. I liked following him. I was like, why not? Let's give it a shot. It was $20 a month. I'll hop in there and see what I could learn. So that's where I met TSDR Trading. I can't thank him enough. He's pretty much taught me everything I know to this day on when it comes to risk management and discipline. All I really knew before that was how to chart. I didn't really know how to stay consistent. in my opinion, this might be a little biased, but I think he's one of the most consistent day traders in this whole community. I think he's so underrated, so underlooked, how consistent he is on a daily basis and how serious he takes this. Because, you really have to put in a lot of work to be successful in this. He once told me trading is going to be everything or it's nothing. If you do it for fun, that's a different story. But if you really are serious about, having a career in this, you got to put everything you got into it. And from there, I started watching him live trade every day. I was working construction. I'd have my AirPods in, and I know he'd live trade in the Discord every day. I'd listen to him all day, just soak in everything he was preaching. I never even followed any of his trade alerts. I would actually get home from work and I'd see all his typed out alerts from the day. And I'd just go back and review his trades, be like, why did he take this? Why did he stop out here? What did he see here? I DM him questions. Why did you take this? Where was your exit? Blah, blah, blah. And from there, I started to learn. I started developing a pretty solid risk management plan and just based my strategy off of him because I thought, I really liked what he did. And, eventually I started considering I might want to take a shot here and see if I can do this full time for a living. And, I'm 20 years old now. I turned 21 in December. And I had a lot of money saved up. I had been working, construction in the summers for 4 years. I was like, hey, why not take the risk now, take that leap of faith and see what I can do? You know what? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm 20 years old. I was confident in myself to be able to find another career path that doesn't work out because I was always a pretty hard worker. That's how I grew up. And I was like, okay, so I have no kids. I paid off my car loan. I decided to move here with my girlfriend. She goes to college here. I just lived in an apartment with her. We split the rent. So really my only expenses are rent and food. And I was like, if I can be smart here, I think I can kind of do this for a living. I'd practice for so long and focus so much on risk management because that's what TSDR really embedded in me, that if you can't manage your risk, you can't play this game. And yeah, from there, about a month and a half ago, I moved here with my girlfriend. I've been trading the Discord ever since. Me and TSDR trade live on Zoom every single day. And I've been feeling pretty good so far. Had a good day today. But yeah, the last few weeks have been pretty solid, man.
That's awesome. This is like the perfect time to interview you. And I remember you saying this when I first reached out. You're like, let's hold off a little bit because I'm actually going full time. This is awesome because a lot of the people we have on, they're either, still working or, a year or two into quote unquote being a full-time trader, but you're like right there. You're right in the mix. So this is going to be a really good conversation. A bunch of points that I could take away from some of the things that you were saying. First off, TSDR goes without being said that he's a phenomenal trader. We had him on the podcast, as you mentioned, and just following him, I've even learned from him. And he's a really good guy. So definitely recommend anybody that doesn't know him to give him a follow. But you talked a lot about risk management, and that's where we'll start the conversation. And we were actually having a conversation earlier this evening when you joined the space, the TCP spaces. And we were talking about risk management. And I think that it can sound and feel very cliche to a newer trader who doesn't truly understand the importance, because you tell someone risk management is important. Yeah, no shit, right? Like you have to be able to manage your risk. Like if your losers are bigger than your winners, like yada, yada. That's what everybody learns very early on. But there comes a point, and sometimes it's, it can be early on in a trader's career. I think for me, it was, a year or two in when I was just so sick of losing, where those like lottos or those days where, you let your risk management just go out the window and, you get really sloppy. That stuff can't happen if you actually want to be profitable. I'm not talking about, hitting like a couple, fun trades and, you bought like AMC calls and you ripped and you're posting your Weeble card on time. I'm talking about if you want to be consistent and do this as a consistent way to actually be profitable. So if you're profitable consistently over a long period of time, those slip ups where you throw risk management out the window, have to be completely eliminated, because here's what can happen. You make $2,000, $4,000 in a month, let's say, and you stack those gains up and you were trading really, really well and everything is going smooth and you're just so confident in your system and everything is just working out well. The one time where you let your emotions take over and you slip up and the risk management goes out the window is when you lose an entire month's worth of gains. Now, going back to how serious are you? And you touched on this as well. If you're not serious and you're doing it for fun and you're just trying to see if you can make a little money or how much money you can make over a short period of time, you're probably not going to care. If you're doing this as a way to generate income, it simply can't happen. So now I want to ask you, what are some of the things that you have learned that you do in your trading to manage risk? Because you're obviously also in a pressure situation, which a lot of full-time traders are, where you're relying on yourself to generate income. So you have that weight on your shoulders of, I seriously got to be really good about managing my risk or else I can put myself in a hole. So again, I want to ask you what it is that you're doing on a daily basis to manage your risk.
Yeah. So there's 3 points I want to bring up here. So the first one was, I remember TSDR had DM'd me one day and he said, try this. He said, for a whole month, only focus on your red days, right? You get green days, but focus on your red days and minimizing those. That is your only goal for 30 days. All right. And I practiced that. And I actually started reading The Mental Game of Trading from Jared Tendler, right? And he talks about your A game, your B game, and your C game, right? And your only job and your number one focus should be to improve your worst case scenario. And when I heard that, it just clicked. Ever since then, that stuck with me, and I hear it in my head every day. Improve your worst case scenario, because your winter days, you'll have good green days, you'll have small green days, but it really comes down to if you can improve that worst case scenario, where we're all human, right? We're going to make mistakes, we're going to slip up. It happens, and that's okay, right? But it is your job to make sure that happens as minimal as possible, right? So one thing that also really helped me was to, not many people know this, but I took a pretty long break off of Twitter. I had like 1,000 followers, 1,500 followers, and I started seeing all these flashy gains, and it would all get in my head, and I got off for 3 months, maybe 2.5 months. I didn't even look at Twitter, nothing. Stayed with myself, stayed with the group, and just focused on me. And, when I look at from work in construction, I used to make $130 a day, right? So if I can make over $130 a day trading, that's amazing in the first hour of the day. I used to work 10 hours for that, right? But you can lose a whole week's worth of paycheck in one day if you're not smart, right? So you really got to focus on improving that worst case scenario. And obviously, one of the biggest downfalls of traders is over trading, right? We've all done it, where, you're down and you're like, all right, if I just, size up a little bit on the next trade and it goes well, I can make it all back and I'm flat. You know what I mean? And one thing that's helped me with over trading was actually the Discord. I would, even trading live on Zoom in front of 200 people every day has improved it so much. And I recommend even anybody who's smaller and doesn't even have that big of a following, find a group to join or post on Twitter and get a little bit of followers and post your trades there. Post them in the Discord, post them on Twitter, so you feel obligated to manage that properly, right? It's easy when you're sitting by yourself, not with anybody, and you just start over trading and going down a hole because you're by yourself, you get into your head, and it's almost like you can't control it, right? It's like subconscious. You like completely lose control, and then after the day's over, you're like, what did I just do? Oh my God, right? So whether it's Twitter or Discord, post your trades. My losers, like the last 3 weeks since I started live trading, have been so small because I know other people are watching my trades and following my trades. That's been huge for me. I haven't taken a 20% loss in about a month. Because, when you log your trades and people are watching, even if you just throw it in like the main chat in some Discord or a group you join, it forces you to focus on higher quality setups, right? And then one thing that I actually did for a little while was to, between 9:30 and 11 a.m., I gave myself 2 trades 2 high quality trades that I had planned out from the night before from my watch list. And then between 12 and 2 o'clock, I just left. Didn't do anything. You get no trades. You come back at 2 o'clock, and then you get one more trade from 2 to the close. And if you actually set up a little plan like that and stick with it for a few weeks, they say it only takes 14 days to build a good habit, right? Even if you spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks with a little plan like that, like, hey, I'm only going to trade twice in the morning. I'm going to take a break midday because that's where I tend to overtrade. The market's not moving much. Why force anything? And then come back later and take one more. And if you stick to that, it starts building good habits, and those habits will stick with you, right? But I think the number one thing that's helped me is posting my trades for people to see. I think it's incredible because it forces you to focus on higher quality setups, and it forces you to really manage your risk. Because when you're all alone, you'll hold something down 50%. I've been there, and it sucks. The final thing I'll say is the number one thing that has changed my trading and taken it to the next level was quitting 0DT trading. And, it's easy to, a lot of newer traders lose more on 0DT, a lot more than they win. But that one 400% banger on a Friday, that'll sometimes, get you in a little bit of you kind of forget about those losses because how good that gainer felt, right? Honestly, I don't even care about the flashy gains anymore. I'll take 20, 30% any day. I don't trade 0DTs anymore on Fridays. I trade next Friday contracts. And I actually, believe it or not, started implementing that into my strategy after I heard K1 Calls come on for the second time on your podcast. And he talked about trading monthlies or trading 2-3 weeks out. I was like, you know what? That makes so much sense. Why not give yourself a little more time, go a little more heavier? You don't have theta working against you, so you can really focus on trading the chart and letting your idea play out. I quit 0DTs a few weeks ago, and since then it's been, a crazy transformation. You would be very surprised how much it changes your game. Those 0DTEs can kill you, man.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, so let's start here. First of all, shout out to K1. Just obvious beast.
Beast, dude. Helping people out. Listen to this. I love it.
Yeah, just that's first things first. But secondly, it's crazy because it's particularly enticing to the newer trader. And it's funny how that paradox works, right? It's like, if you're a newer trader and you have a smaller account, right? Those 0DTs are attractive to you because they cost less, right? So it's like, these are 10 cents or $10, $20 per con. I can actually get more than one contract. I can actually scale in, and then also for the newer trader, that draw in of, this can go 400%, whereas a weekly is, or a monthly, a contract with a month's expiration, 2 months expiration is less likely to go 400%, really transform my account. I could have a 400% trade. I could have 1,000% trade from trading SPX. I mean, we saw, I think 4,000% opportunities today in SPX, probably more. And so I think that's what draws you in. And then as a newer trader, it's like, you're coming into an environment where you're trading probably the most volatile instrument that our market offers outside of maybe crypto or something. And you expect to learn, how to trade properly. And it's how is that supposed to work? You're trying to do the hardest thing possible, right? You're going to the most volatile part, not even trading stocks, you're trading derivatives of stocks. And then you're going to trade those derivatives with basically 2 hours left to expiration, hoping to get this banger. And it's say it out loud. That's why Honda's laughing.
It sounds so stupid. Say it out loud
to yourself. It just doesn't really make sense. Whereas I don't know. And I have a love-hate relationship with it because, I do think that there are times where if I'm up on the day, I'll take 10% of my profits and throw it into a lotto because I know that lotto, should it hit, can double the profits on the day by only risking 10%. I'm up 1,000. If I throw $100 into an SPX 0DT and it goes 10x, I just made another 1,000. And if I lose, I only made 90% of my profits on that day. So it's it's a love-hate relationship for me where I think if you're, first of all, I'm only taking them if I'm in profit, right? If you're red, you have no business taking lottos. But that's kind of how my thought process is, right? If I'm going to compound this, why not only risk 10% of the profits on it? But I do agree with you where it's particularly, again, if you're trying to learn, I think that it puts a lot of pressure on you because, again, you have to really nail that entry, right? Like when you're trading that 0 DTE, if you get in 1 5-minute candle too early, 1 5-minute candle too late, that could be a 20% difference in your entry price, right? So I think that's also really important, and why, trading 0 DTE is super volatile, and you just got to be careful with it, for sure. And then, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, and I think a lot of the newer traders don't realize that, when you're using options, you're essentially, leveraging your money to your advantage. And I think that, the few really understand that it's about the speed of gain and not the amount, right? It's about how fast you can capture 20, 30, 40%. Like the S&Ps return 7% over over on average for like in a year. Like people don't realize 30% on your returns on your investment that you put in is wild. And the fact that you can get that in within 20, 30 minutes is crazy. Like don't take that for advantage. But yeah, that was just what I wanted to say.
Yeah. But a 30% Weeble card doesn't get you 100 likes and a UW retweet though. So that's where people, fall into that trap. But the second point I wanted to make, and we actually talked about this today on Spaces, is that planning aspect that you talked about, right? Take those 2 trades in the morning that you planned out the night before or in pre-market or whatever, and go about it that way. I think that something that's that simple, and I really do think that it gets overlooked. Like if you're somebody who is waking up at 9:15 every day and you're going and checking the top 3 gainers in pre-market, and you're like, I'm just going to chart my levels with 15 minutes till open, and I'm going to consistently be able to make profit trading these, daily breakouts and daily gappers and whatnot. What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't understand how you think that you can outperform somebody like TSDR, who literally spent the night before 3 hours charting setups, right? I just had who do you think you are? It's not going to work. And so that planning aspect, I think, helps you find the trades first of all, right? And like Bracco talked about actually today on Spaces, you got to have that daily setup. You got to have everything in place where you have your plan. That's what gives you conviction in the trade and allows you to not get shaken out by one bad 5-minute candle, for example, right? If you know that you have a setup on the daily, you have your plan drawn out before the trade, you enter, and the chart starts to not look so great. If it is still within the parameters of your plan, you can stay in and weather that storm. And sometimes that'll actually turn out to be a winner, right? And it's if you don't have a plan, you're more likely to just sort of cut that at the first smell of, oh, this doesn't look great or XYZ, right? So I think having that plan is really, really important, particularly if you're a newer trader, right? And you're struggling. I think that's one of the first things that you should do is only trade planned out trades. It's going to make it much less stressful for you. And the emotional aspect of dealing with it, those decisions intraday, it can help with that exponentially.
Yeah, I remember when I was working construction and some days I'd work, I'd be at work for 14 hours and I'd come home so tired. I'm like, man, I just don't think I can hit the charts tonight. I'm just way too gassed. I got to get to sleep. And I'd wake up the next day tired and I'm like, all right, let me see what setups I can find. And they all turn back on me. I'm like, what am I doing right now? Right. If you think about it, I kind of think about even school too. You have a big exam coming up and you don't study at all for it. Your chances are very low of passing unless you really paid attention in class, right? But if you study and prepare for it, the odds are way more in your favor that you'll pass that. If you don't know the general setup of the whole market as a whole going into the next day, I just don't think that you can, successfully execute trades. I spend, hours every night. We do live sessions every night going through watch lists. We spend about an hour and a half and get our, favorite traders. For me, what works for me is I think that I used to focus on a lot of names. I'd have 10 names on my watch list going to the next day and really, toning that back and focusing on less has really helped me a lot. Really getting familiar with a few names that you like, what I like to call my daily traders, right? Stocks that have been working for you. You get very familiar with how they trade, how they like to act, and just look at those every night and chart your levels, chart your setups. One of the things that TSDR told me a while back was get your idea from the daily chart. Okay. Find the trade setup on the daily chart. Where are the daily EMAs? Where's the resistance levels? How do the daily candles look? Bullish, bearish trend. Okay. Then move to the hourly and identify the trend. All right. What's the short-term trend? Higher lows, higher highs, lower lows, lower highs, and then execute your entry on the 5 minute. Some of my best trades have come from ideas from the daily chart, right? Get your idea there and then identify your short-term trend. Make sure the hourly is in your favor. You want that time frame confluence. You want them all lining up in your favor, and it gives you a lot more conviction on your trade. And I think that you really need to put in the work if you want to be able to trust your intuition, which is that gut feeling. And I know everybody has it, and they can be scared to act on it sometimes. Like, I don't know about this. I'm a little nervous. And then they don't take it and it ends up working out, right? It's hard to trust that, but you're only able to trust that if you really put in the work and put in the hours. I've been putting 16 hours a day at my desk, and some people call me crazy, but I'm convinced that that's what it takes to be able to be successful. So you really just need to focus on time frame confluence, making sure everything lines up, and then executing that on the 5 minute. When you are aware of all the time frames and where everything's at, it gives you that ability to trust your gut feeling and take that trade, right? Why not take it? But you can't just come in not prepped at all and just take a trade and be like, oh, why this turn against me? It looked good, but you don't know how everything looks on the larger time frames. The larger time frames are more important than the smaller time frames. You can see a nice setup on the 5 minute, but you're running into a massive resistance zone on the daily chart that you never even knew about, right? So you really got to spend the time at night if you want to be able to execute trades and trust that gut feeling the next day.
You're a daily chart guy. I mean, that's kind of how you blew up on Twitter, right? Like you post these really aesthetic daily charts. And
aesthetically pleasing.
They are.
You just post pretty charts. That's why everybody followed you.
I do.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that there's value to that, right? And exactly like you said, is like some of your best trades have come off the daily chart. If you see something on the daily chart that tells you that Apple can go to 155 and you get an Apple at 150, you're less likely to sell at 151 if you did the homework before the night before and say, this setup says Apple could very well see 155. As long as the chart is showing me that the trend is still intact, why would I sell at 151? Right? I think that is why those daily chart setups can yield so much more than just solely 5 minute time frame setups, solely 1 minute time frame setups. Not to say that they can't work. Stock sniping makes a living off of that, right? But I think for others, looking at that daily chart can give you conviction, right? It can give you conviction, allow you to stay on the trade longer, give you an idea of where things may be heading. I couldn't agree more. I think the daily chart is super, super underrated, in my opinion.
And one thing you guys haven't talked about yet is planning the trades so it can help you to have confidence, entering the trade, which we talked about. It can help you stay in a trade, which we talked about. But when you lose, it can help you to understand why. And that's the only way you can actually get better is you need a pretty strict, a relatively strict set of rules going into the day for what trades you're looking to take and why. And if you can't determine that before the day starts, then how are you going to improve as a trader? How are you going to look back at the end of the day if, I tried to play calls off of like VWAP and it didn't work on like the 5 minute chart? Like how can you back test that? How can you look at that over a stretch, over a period of time and determine, is this a profitable strategy? Am I planning correctly? Am I doing things right? And, the idea was just wrong? Or am I flat out doing things wrong? And you have to be able to separate. Am I trading bad or am I trading well? The ideas just aren't working. We also talked about this on Spaces earlier. Just because you lose on a trade does not mean necessarily that it was a bad trade. Get that out of your head. If you lose, that's part of the game. I have ideas that don't work. And sometimes I can look back and it's obvious. And I could say, okay, I know exactly what I did because I know what I was trying to do. I had an expected result. The reason it didn't work is because of reasons XYZ. Now I can eliminate that from my system and I can move forward and I'm going to be a better trader because of it. But if you're taking trades blindly and, every trade just feels like you're wrong and, like it's just a bad trade, it's more so because you don't have that rule set. You don't have that guide. You don't have the train tracks that are keeping you in line. It's okay to be wrong. Again, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to lose money. It's okay to be wrong on the idea. It's not okay to be wrong and then just to like keep going. Like, you got to be able to assess. You got to be able to assess what it is you're doing so that when you're profitable and you win the trade, you understand exactly why. You got to understand exactly why. When you lose the trade, you understand exactly why. If you're taking winning trades or if you're making winning trades and you're chalking them up to luck, if you're playing those SPX 0DTEs and 1 out of every 5 hits and you feel like a superhero and you walked away with $70 because you were shitting your pants anyways that you were going to give back the money, like that is not going to work over the long term. Be honest with yourself, right? Be honest with yourself. What's going to work is, this is the trade I plan on taking. This is what I expect to happen if I take it. If it doesn't work, I want to learn why. If it does work, good. I know that I can repeat that process. And it slowly becomes like you figure out what works and you figure out what doesn't work, and you just slowly start creeping up until eventually it's like, now I have the confidence and now I have the belief in myself that I know enough, that I've done enough homework, that I've done the work enough to where now I can be profitable. It doesn't just happen. Like you don't get lucky. That's bullshit. You don't just you don't run into a hot market like people did in 21 and in 2020, right? Like that stuff is gone. The small cap, you wake up and the daily gainers, the top daily gainers are all up 400, 500, 600%. There's 10 different names that are up over 100% in pre-market. We're not in that market right now. So you don't have that room to, just go hammer shit and, tail people on Twitter and, what people are pumping. That is gone. So if you're still struggling in this market, be honest with yourself. Are you putting in the work? Are you trying to develop a system? Or are you just still praying that it's just going to randomly click? And I can personally say it just doesn't. Like you really, really got to work hard.
I think this is like a throwback to like one of our first pods, and I remember it so clearly because it was like one of the coolest things I ever said. It was
oh my God.
learning how to trade is just trying a bunch of shit that doesn't work. I think
yeah, you love that one. Yeah, because then you took it to Twitter too. You tweeted it.
Oh yeah.
It is a good one. I'll give you credit.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
It is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect example, right? Where it's like, to further that, like learning how to trade is trying a bunch of shit that doesn't work. To Alejandra's point, if you don't know why it didn't work, you're going to make the same mistake over and over again, right? Like if you don't understand why something didn't work, if you don't understand that you can't just buy or sell every 821 cross to the downside and buy every single 821 cross to the upside. If you don't understand why these things aren't working, you're going to continue to make those same mistakes over and over again. And so I think to Alejandra's point, having a system allows you to diagnose the problem, right? It allows you to say, okay, here's my system that I use every day. For whatever reason on these trades it didn't work. Let's go back and look at what was going on in the indices. Was there news? Was it a Fed day? Right? Maybe this system works, but maybe I probably shouldn't trade it when Jerome Powell is announcing that they're going to be hiking until 2030, right? Maybe that's not the best idea. So I think that type of stuff, if you don't have a system, it makes it so much more difficult to identify what doesn't work, right? Because once you're able to identify what doesn't work, and I promise you, if you're a new trader, you're going to try things that don't work. I encourage you to, actually, right? You're going to try things that don't work.
I mean, we still try things that don't work every single day. That's
all the time,
part of the process.
Every single day. And so, like, once you identify, okay, this doesn't work, you exclude it, right? You get rid of it. And then at the end, you're left with only the things that work, right? And so I think that's exactly, what was I going to say? Oh, that's exactly Alejandra's point, right? When he talks about having a system and really being able to understand and diagnose, why this worked and why this didn't work.
If you really think about it, a system only works if you follow it, right? I know you were talking about how you have your system, for an example, that you play, and you had 3 losers in a row. That's no reason to not take the next setup if it's according to plan, right? If you don't take that, maybe that's the big winner that balances out for those 3 losses.
It was the big winner in his case.
Exactly. And you just can't trade without a system. I think it's crazy. You got to have a plan. If a system or strategy doesn't work, find a new one, right? And I think it's really important to understand, and something that I didn't understand early on that Alejandro said was it's okay to lose, and you need to learn that. Because, for example, I'm a day trader. It's just, what I'm comfortable with now. Maybe I'll swing in the future, but for now I'm a day trader. And I've had some good swing trade ideas, and I wanted to put them into action. So I started a small account in the Discord with $500. I wanted to prove that even in this market, with a small amount of money, you can be profitable if you have strong risk management and you're disciplined. You have a system. I started the swing account. We did really well. We went 100% on it in the first 2 weeks, but I only had a 45% win rate on it. Right, the average loss was 15%, and the average win was 53%. I could have almost had a 30% win rate. I could have been right 1 out of every 3 times and still been profitable by a decent amount. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't need to. It's okay to be wrong, but it's only okay to be wrong if you manage your losses. If you manage them how you're supposed to. It's okay to take losses, but it's not okay to take losses because you're over trading or you're just trying to make up in revenge trade. That's not okay. It's okay to take a loss here and there. It happens. You can't win them all. It's never going to happen. Even a 50% win rate, I think, is incredible. I admire anyone who has an over a 50% win rate, because I'm not there. I'd say the low 40s, mid 40s, and I'm okay with that. That's all I need. As long as I'm taking trades that favor me from a risk reward standpoint, I'm okay with that. Right? You don't need over 50%. You don't need to be right all the time. And one other thing is, if you're like just in a Discord or on Twitter following someone and only following their alerts, you're never going to get better. Right? I joined this Discord and I almost never took any alerts. I just watched them and reviewed them and see how they played out. You won't learn anything if you're just following alerts. And believe it or not, it's not easy to follow alerts because you don't know what the trade is that they're taking. You don't know, if you're not paying attention and you're just sitting there and you get the notification and take the trade, you don't know what the idea was behind it, or what their plan is. It's not easy. I've tried to follow alerts in Discords and I've had some trouble, believe it or not. So
it can be dangerous too. I mean, if you again, if you're not paying attention, and that's why I think, and I know that you guys do this in your Discord, but live voice trading it's just such a game changer. Because even a lot of those guys on live voice and Kane, Hondo, how many people do we have in there who literally have said that they don't take any of our trades? They just sit in there and listen to.
Dude, I think the majority. I literally think the majority of them, because now, and I keep saying this, I have people that tag me and they're like, oh, look at this system trade I took, or look at this trade I took, Dwayne, I'm up, $1,000 today. And I'm like, dude, where are you guys? It's communicating too. So if you, regardless of what Discord you're in, regardless of what you're doing, and we're very, very clear with our members, the whole point isn't to take the alerts, which is why we are way more focused on explaining exactly why we're going to take the trade, because that helps everybody. Not only does it help the members who are trying to learn, that helps me as the head trader who needs to alert the trade. Because if I don't have a good enough reason to be entering the trade, I probably shouldn't be A, alerting it, B, I shouldn't be taking it at all. So that's helped me to eliminate stupid trades. And going back to something that we talked about earlier, being able to communicate with other people and share trades is so important, because it helps you, whether it's, managing your risk because other people are watching you, or you only want to share high confidence ideas. And we talk about this a lot, having that group that you could trade with for that reason. It can be really important. So the last thing I want to talk about, we've discussed risk management. We've discussed a bunch of things that kind of revolved around having a rule set. So risk management, pre-planning your trades, going into the market prepared. All of this stuff is great and all, but when it comes down to it, You have to actually be able to do it. You guys are going to listen to the podcast. You're going to be fired up because this is such an awesome episode. You're going to go into trade tomorrow. Maybe you listen to the episode, you pre-plan a bunch of trades, you have your rules set now, and you go and you write it down, and this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to follow, this is how I'm going to manage my risk. But there comes the question as to how are you actually going to do it? How are you going to discipline yourself as a trader so that you don't make those mistakes that you know that you shouldn't be making? I'm not talking about a losing trade. I'm not talking about, taking a trade that maybe you shouldn't have taken. I'm talking about the obvious shit that has been bothering you so much for the past 3, 6, 12 months that you know are the reasons why you're losing. Are you ready to discipline yourself? Look yourself in the mirror. Are you ready to go? And what are some of the steps that you're going to do to get to that point? So we'll go around. We'll discuss the things that we do personally as traders. We'll start with Bracco. Bracco, what is it that you do on a daily basis, or what are some of the habits that you have developed that have put you in this position where now you are more confident and where now you can manage risk without getting crazy sloppy?
Yeah, it's so easy, right? Anybody can get on a podcast or a space and just preach risk management. When it really comes down to it, it's not as easy, not even close. But one thing that really helped me that I would recommend is even like changing something like, if you've been setting these rules and saying you're going to manage your risk, but you keep breaking it. But one thing that I would recommend is changing something up like in your lifestyle, whether it's going on a run every day or
you took mine.
Going on a run or even just like eating healthier. Find something else that will really, maybe even start a new journey, right? Like it's, the great thing about trading, and I always say this, is that you can literally tomorrow reset your whole trading journey and be a whole new trader. Where else can you do that where you can say, all right, I'm going to completely forget everything that's happened in the last 6 months and start fresh. Even if you take a week break, that's hard, but be like, okay, I'm going to go on runs. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to do this, do that. And then I'm going to also, follow this set of rules, and all of those together, if you're staying disciplined to those other things, it might help you stay disciplined to this trading thing, right? It's never too late to start fresh. Take a break, refund an account, and be like, okay, this is it. Like, this is my chance to really do it. And that's what I did. I said, I'm going to fund this account and this is my last chance. If I blow this, then like I really need to take a long break. And it's okay to take a break for whether it's a week or 2 weeks or a month. When you're taking that break, it might feel like you're taking a step back, but in reality, you're taking 2 steps forward, if that makes sense, right? So find something else to correlate to it and just start a new journey. Be like, okay, Monday next week, it starts. This is it. Like, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to start doing this, doing that, and following this set of plans. I'm going to spend all weekend writing up this whole thing and stick to it. And just start building good habits all around, not even just in trading. Make your bed in the morning right when you wake up, meal prep, anything. But it's really important. It's not easy to stick to it. I've made a whole bunch of new rule sets and try to stick to them, and they've failed before. But try to find other things that you can correlate with that, so it kind of feels like you're on a new journey or you're starting fresh.
100% agree with you. And I said at the beginning, you kind of stole my point that I was going to make, is that you have to discipline yourself outside of just the trading. It's so important. And for me, that's where I really started finding success trading, is outside of, the hours that I'm sitting at the desk where the market is open, or even outside of the hours where I'm charting and I'm doing my homework and whatnot. I'm doing other things that also translate over to the discipline that I've now been able to develop in my trading. And, successful people are very, very rarely successful in only one aspect of life. So for me, I love this track group that I joined. So on Tuesday nights I go, it's called Brooklyn Track Club. And I've started to meet a bunch of people there. And it's very rare to meet somebody who's willing to consistently go to a track practice on Tuesday night, beat themselves up. You got a bunch of people who just love running. They love discipline. They love fitness, it's very rare to find somebody who's also not successful in other aspects of life. And the reason is, again, because it translates over. So for me, if my diet is in check, if my workout routine is in check, if I'm waking up and I'm getting proper sleep, I'm trading better. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't want to hear anybody tell me that there's no correlation, because there 150% is. When I'm disciplined outside of my trading, I'm disciplined in my trading. And when I'm not, I feel that. Right? I feel that when I feel like my diet is off, or, I'm not eating enough and that's affecting my mood, that then affects my trading. Or if, I've been having bad workouts, or, I just haven't been sleeping enough, that all affects my trading. So sometimes you have to look at what you're doing outside of the market hours. It's so easy to just sit there, review what you did and think, shit, like, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I can't manage the risk. I get way too emotional. I'm not a good trader. I don't have enough experience. Look at the other aspects of your life. And, it can be hard. It can be difficult, but being honest with yourself and looking at, am I disciplined elsewhere? If the answer is yes, you definitely have a much better chance of being disciplined as a trader.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think obviously because when it comes to discipline in trading too, I feel like it's tough to really nail it down, like where it's important, right? Like obviously like following your rules, I think, matters, but I think it's also smaller things like preparing every night, right? Like Bracco said, doing that work every night that you get home, you're tired from work, you just worked 10-hour day, having that discipline to say, okay, I don't care what I just did. I know that I have to put in this work if I'm going to be successful. I have to go look at my charts. I have to go read the news, see what's going on in different sectors, what sectors are outperforming XYZ, that type of stuff. Like if you don't have the discipline to do those things, I think for somebody like me in particular, and I think that this is where it becomes, that point becomes personal for me. It's like, I love stocks. So like getting me to sit here, like from like 9:30 to 4 intraday is not hard. Like that's not work to me. Like I'll do that any day. Like it's not really like difficult. I think what was difficult for me was the discipline in the sense of, okay, not only do you have to, get your screen time and watch an XYZ, but you also have to go back and review what you missed and what you did, right? And I think that discipline in that aspect, doing that every day is really important. So I would say my biggest part of my process to directly answer your question would be reviewing my trades. I think reviewing trades is it's something that I've had to do obviously more, as we run the Discord and, I'm trying to get the trade recaps out for, Twitter and Discord and stuff like that. So I think, I've been more consistent with it now just because I kind of have to. But reviewing trades really, when you sit here every day during the market open, and Coach tweeted something the other day, I've watched every 5-minute candle on SPY for the last like 2 years, probably cap, but I mean, I'm sure that he has seen like a lot of candles.
Pretty
right?
close.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like the guy gets a lot of screen time, but I mean, it's the same thing, right? The more screen time you get, you begin to recognize these little patterns that happen in the market. And I think, over 4 years, I can definitely feel that, watching the price action intraday, I definitely recognize patterns just solely based off of that pattern recognition from screen time. If you do that exact same thing in your trades, you're going to recognize patterns, not in the market, but with you. You're going to recognize your own patterns as a trader and as an individual and say, okay, here's a setup that I made. Here's a trade that I took. And I'll take a personal example, right? I suck at breakout trading, even still. Like I'm not very good at it. I'm more of like a trend trader, right? I identify a trend, I get it on a pullback, and that's how we do it, right? The breakout of the initial, like whether it's like a wedge, like whatever it is, I was just never good at. And so reviewing my trades, what I found was I kept taking after the breakout that pullback, and it's like you don't know if that pullback is really going to get you what you want. Why don't you just buy the breakout? Like, what's the worst case that happens? It fails and you get stopped out, right? And I feel like reviewing those trades every single day for me allows me to not only see what I'm doing well, right? Obviously, like when you recap your winners, you see, you'll find those patterns where, okay, this has been working for me, I'm going to keep doing it. But you also recognize the things that you could do better that you don't do right now, right? So like, again, the breakout thing, like for me, I don't know why it was just like always an apprehension to buy the breakout. And I think when you're in a situation where the market is conducive to that type of style, like we've had over the last 2 days, that's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. That apprehension and that hesitation is going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. And so, for me, recapping trades really transformed everything for me. It made me more aware of who I am as a trader, and thus allowed me to change, I think, the things that weren't working out for me.
Also, if you really think about it, like trading is a very emotional game, and I know a lot of us know that. But we've all probably had those times in the past where you have a span of a month, 2 months, a week, 2 weeks, where you're like, you really think to yourself, like, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything. I'm just being a zombie. Like, just, whether it's going to work, working my 9 to 5, I'm not eating healthy. I'm not doing this. I'm just sitting around watching TV, doing nothing to better myself. If you're doing those things, like, like Alejandro going on a run, or whether it's eating healthy or anything at all, it'll help, I think, relieve some of that stress when it comes to trading, which is very important, right? Even working out, like, naturally is, scientifically proven to relieve stress. And, you don't want to be trading when you're just in that zombie mode where you're just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm not doing anything productive. So maybe even if your training's not going so well, you at least have something to say, like, hey, at least I'm, trying to better myself outside of the market. And I think that will help you a lot, whether you believe it or not.
110%.
We talked about this before we jumped on the pod, about how just over the last 50 episodes, I just take, little bits and pieces from different people that we meet. And when we interviewed Rocky, I forget when he was, probably in the 30s somewhere, I think. But when we interviewed Rocky, one of the many things that I got from our conversation with him is win before the day starts, right? And he talked about how he goes to the gym early in the morning because by the time he starts trading, he's already won. I already won the day. I already went out. I got active. I got my blood pumping. I did something difficult. I challenged myself and I succeeded, right? So even if I don't trade the best that I can, I already won something, right? There's something out there that I'm decent at, right? I'm not ass at everything. So I think that is really important, in terms of the working out thing. I think that's really important to be like, look, trading isn't everything, right? Having a bad day, trading doesn't make you a bad person or anything like that. And I think you can sort of get wrapped up in it, especially guys in our position who are, giving out trades because when you're having a rough stretch, it's not just you losing, it's other people. I think that is really, really important if you're in that position to understand, hey, look, this isn't everything, right? You still have to take care of your body, you still have to take care of your mental, and all that other stuff. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things I took away from his conversation and still sticks with me to this day.
One more thing I want to say, one of my favorite quotes that I heard a long time ago was, it came from my grandfather. We used to go golfing all the time, and he used to say, you're only as good as your last hole. Right. So I like to think you're only as good as your last trade, or you're only as good as your last trading day. You could have been on a roll for 6 months, but you come in on a Monday and you just blow up and you have a horrible day. The market does not care what you've done in the past, right? It only cares what you bring that day. If I had a bad day yesterday, hey, I'm a bad trader. Maybe, you really are only good as what you bring to the table that day. That's why I think what you said, winning before the day starts, is very important. Feeling like you had a good, productive day all around.
You're only as good as your last hole. It's funny, Ryan, our producer who's listening in right now, we used to play FIFA together growing up, and we used to say you're only as good as your last game, which really used to piss him off. But that's what I thought. I had to plug that in. But all right, so completely agree with everything that you guys were saying. I have one more question for Brocco. Dude, what is this guy in your profile picture? What's going?
Dude,
who is this guy?
If I'm being completely honest, I have no clue.
Right,
I have no clue.
I remember first clicking on it, I was like, dude, what is this? I don't you just found a random picture then.
TSR asked me the other day, he said, dude, is that a lizard? Because shout out to Atomic Photoshop on Twitter. He's awesome. He made my logo for me. And he just, he just whipped up some idea where it was kind of some my profile picture before that was some anonymous, dude with like, trading, and like, it was just kind of this anonymous thing, dude with a hood on, like in front of the laptop with like clouds in the background. I was like, you know what? That looks dope. I don't even care what it is.
I like it. Definitely like it. All right, man. This was an awesome episode. Thank you for joining us. Big number 50, big 50. It was a pleasure getting the chance to finally meet and speak with you, dude.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. This is a good way to kind of reach out to my followers. I know I'm going to be starting up a YouTube soon to help, I get so many DMs and I want to be able to answer all those. Yeah. So this is a good way to get that out. And yeah, you guys, anytime in the future, just hit me up and I'll be there.
For sure, man. All right, Noah, another awesome episode 51 next week.
Yep. I hope you guys enjoyed the last 50 episodes. And we look forward to many, many more. See you guys next week.